December 10th, 2008. Bernie Madoff sits his two sons down in his Manhattan penthouse and says, "I'm finished. It's all been one giant lie." His sons stare at him, confused. Bernie Madoff, former NASDAQ chairman, Wall Street legend, the man who made people money for 20 straight years without a single losing month. He looks them in the eye and says it again. There is no money. There never was. $65 billion. Gone. And the wildest part? It wasn't even complicated. Before we go further, let me ask you something. If your friend said they could double your money every year, guaranteed, no risk, would you believe them? Of course not. But what if that friend wore a $3,000 suit, had an office in Manhattan, and was the former chairman of NASDAQ? Now it sounds different, doesn't it? That's the trick, and thousands of smart people fell for it. Here's how. Bernie Madoff didn't look like a criminal. He looked like your rich uncle who always picked up the check at dinner. He ran his investment firm from the Lipstick Building in New York, 3 full floors. His clients included celebrities, billionaires, banks, and charities. Steven Spielberg invested with him. So did the owner of the New York Mets. Entire university endowments trusted him. And every single month, like clockwork, they got a statement in the mail. 8% returns, 10%, 12%, year after year. Bull market, bear market, didn't matter. Madoff's fund always made money. People didn't just want in, they begged to get in. It was exclusive. You needed connections, referrals. It felt like joining a secret club. But here's the thing nobody wanted to admit. Those returns were impossible. Not unlikely, impossible. And one guy spent 9 years trying to prove it. His name was Harry Markopolos, a financial analyst who looked at Madoff's numbers and immediately knew something was wrong. He ran the math, he checked the options markets, he submitted a report to the SEC titled, "The World's Largest Hedge Fund is a Fraud." That was in 2000. The SEC investigated. They visited Madoff's office. They asked questions. And they left satisfied. They investigated again in 2005. Same result. And again in 2007. Nothing. Because here's what Markopolos was up against. Bernie Madoff wasn't some random guy. He helped create NASDAQ. He sat on SEC advisory boards. He donated millions to charity. He had credibility that math couldn't touch. So what was he actually doing with the money? Let me explain it so simply that you'll be furious nobody caught it sooner. Imagine you're running a lemonade stand. 10 kids give you $5 each. You promise them $6 back next week because you're investing in a super secret lemon strategy. Next week comes, you don't have $60. You never bought lemons, you spent all $50 on video games. But then 5 new kids show up. They each give you $5. Now you have $25. You take $6, give it to one of the original kids, and say, "See, told you I'm good at this." That kid tells their friends. Now 20 more kids want in. The scheme grows. As long as more money comes in than goes out, you're fine. You just keep recycling new money to pay old promises. That's called a Ponzi scheme, named after Charles Ponzi, who did this exact thing in 1920. And that's all Bernie Madoff did for 20 years. There was no split-strike conversion strategy. There were no trades, no stocks, no options. His clients would wire him money, he'd put it in a Chase bank account, spend some on himself, and use the rest to pay whoever wanted to cash out. The monthly statements? Fiction. Just numbers printed on paper. Now, here's where this gets absolutely insane. Madoff's firm had 2 operations. Upstairs, his sons ran a legitimate trading business. Real clients, real trades, totally legal. Downstairs, on the 17th floor, Bernie ran the Ponzi scheme. Different staff, different computers, a locked door. His brother worked in the building, his niece. His sons came to work every day for decades. And somehow, allegedly, none of them knew what was happening 1 floor below. The fraud wasn't hidden in some offshore account in the Caymans. It was happening in Midtown Manhattan, inside a respected firm, in plain sight. And it would have kept going except for one thing Madoff couldn't control. September 8th, 2008, Lehman Brothers collapses. Markets crater, panic spreads, and Madoff's investors start asking for their money back. Not because they suspected fraud, but because they needed cash. Market crash, liquidation time. By December, they wanted $7 billion out. Madoff had $300 million in the bunk. The math finally broke. On December 10th, he confessed to his sons. They reported him to the FBI the next morning, and by December 12th, federal agents arrested him at his penthouse. He pled guilty to 11 felonies. The judge gave him 150 years in prison. He died there in 2021. So, who lost money? That's the question that haunted courts for years. Because if you invested $1 million with Madoff in 1995 and your statement said you had $4 million in 2008, did you lose $1 million or $4 million? You never actually had $4 million. That number only existed on paper. Some people withdrew more money over the years than they originally put in. They profited from a scam. Courts spent a decade clawing that money back to pay real victims. As of now, most investors have recovered their original principal, but the phantom profits? Those are gone forever. $65 billion, the biggest financial fraud in history. But here's the question nobody wants to answer. How many of those investors genuinely believed Madoff was a genius, and how many quietly knew something was off but didn't ask questions because the checks kept clearing? Because Bernie Madoff didn't just fool people, he gave them permission to fool themselves. He went to prison, the money's mostly gone, but that hunger for guaranteed returns, that willingness to ignore red flags when someone important tells you what you want to hear, that's still out there, right now, waiting for the next person smart enough to exploit it. And the scary part, you might not see it coming either. If this changed how you see things, don't just leave. Hit that like button. Drop your thoughts in the comments because I actually read them. Share this with someone who thinks they'd never fall for a scam. And subscribe because the con artists didn't retire when Madoff got caught. We're just getting started.